Hello, my crafty friends. It's Michelle, the Southern Shell, and I am here with the Wood Round or Wreath Wednesday, the WWW featuring in corner A, Aurea with DIY with Aurea, and in corner B, we have Loli with Loli D's Creations. These are our wonderful hosts for this fun collaboration. Links to their channel will be in my description box below, as well as the playlist with all the other talented creators joining us this month. Let's move on to project number 1. So I was digging around and I found this 7-inch wood round, and that is from Walmart. And I have this beautiful Paper Studio pad here. And it is a few years old. It's at least 3 years old, maybe 2. I don't remember. It's been a few years. I was trying to remove the sticker off of the back of this, and it was actually being a pain. It actually tore some of the grain of the wood off the back. So I brought my lovely little heat tool. All of a sudden, just was being a stinker. So I finally just got my Cricut spatula out and left my heat gun on that sticker, and it came up. I tell you guys, it was a long process. I haven't had that much problem removing a sticker in a long time. So I'm going to go ahead and get these ornaments out here. These are some wood ornaments that I've had for a while in my stash. The circle baubles there, I got a large pack, and this is only one of, I think, 5 that came in that pack, the one cluster. And then those vintage looking ones there, I'm using my plaster Waverly chalk paint, and I painted that nice and followed the wood grain. And then I still have my wet paintbrush, and my board is just a little wet. And now I'm going to come in with my hazelnut in Waverly, and I am going to do a dry brush across the top of that plaster. You see, it's still wet, and I'm just going to drag it across just so you can still see the wood grain in that wooden circle. Once I lay down a coat of this Waverly in hazelnut, I'm going to come in with another color. While the hazelnut was drying, I am coming in with my matte Mod Podge, and I'm going to put a nice layer on top of my ornaments here and let them fully dry. Okay, I'm going to help them fully dry. How about that? Once those are dry, I am going to bring in some paper. And this is that book of the 12 Days of Christmas by the Paper Studio. And I'm going to pick out some patterns that I think will look almost like cozy sweaters. So I love this one here. This looks like a little red and white sweater. And then I found this green, and it just has a print that says Merry Christmas. And so I was looking for something that would kind of blend or bring both the red and the green in. And I thought these little ice skaters were perfect. There were so many to choose from, and I had looked through that paper pad a few times. I decided to use the ice skaters on the round bobble because that one was the odd man out, and the paper also had the red and the green both in it. So that'll be in the middle, and then I'm just going to put the green Merry Christmas for one of the vintage ones, and then the red sweater looking paper for the other vintage one. I'm just setting it on there and then cutting around it so I can come in and press that into my wood. I'm going to come in with a piece of parchment paper after I've aligned that paper on the front of my ornament, and I'm going to iron each one of these down to that Mod Podged wooden surface. So I have my sanding block here, my little finger sander. But the first thing I'm going to do is just trim off some of the excess all around this. It'll make it a little easier to trim off those or to sand off those edges. I went ahead and came in and Mod Podged over the top of these before I finished sanding them off. I was going to try to do the burn method, but my lighter was out of fluid, so I ended up having to sand them off anyway. But that's okay. I'm just gonna, you see here, I'm like, okay, and I started and I'm turning and it goes out and I'm like, ah, snap, won't start. The burn method would have been a lot easier going up through the holes, but that's okay. Now I'm coming in with this DIY in this green, and I am just brushing lightly over the top of that. And I am not going to add a whole bunch to that, enough to add some of that green pop to it. Now I'm going to come in with some gold on top of that, and just enough to go over the top, and that's going to bring in some of the gold with that green on my board. And now I'm going to come in with a little bit of antique gold rub and buff, and I'm going to go all the way around the edges of each one of these baubles, bringing some of that gold onto the inside of my ornament. Once I get that all around each ornament, I'm going to come in and actually add it across the tip of those baubles of the hangers, where it would hang on a tree if that's where I was going to leave it. I covered the whole top of that with that same antique antique gold rub and buff. And now I'm coming in with some crocheted ribbon from the Dollar Tree, and I'm going to make 3 little finger bows to go on the top of each one of my ornaments. Once the ribbon bows were done, I came in with some of the hanging twine that actually came with the ornaments and made little bows for the tops of each of those. I had that bag of some little ornaments, some little wooden embellishments that I have had, and I'm going to use my wood glue to add my baubles to my wood round, and I'm just going to spread that wood glue across the back there, and then I'm going to lay these down on top of my wood board. I didn't add any extra Mod Podge or anything on top of there. I wanted this wood glue to meet down with the paint that's on top of there. And I'm just adding some of that glue to those little wooden decor pieces and adding those right on the front of my little baubles. Now, sometimes I think, oh, I should stop here, but no, I keep going. And I add the bows that I created to go onto the top of each one of those ornaments. And I just hot glue those down using that hot glue in the center and filling it up. And then I can lay the bow right on top, and it gives a nice, secure grip. And I'm just using that little dab of glue on the bottom to tuck in that little twine bow on the same ornament. So I thought it looked a little bare towards the bottom. And so I'm going to come in with some more ribbon, and I needed to prop it up a little bit. This was a little wide to go around this, so I folded it in half, and that edged up the edge of that wood round perfectly. So I'm just going to go around this wood round with my folded embroidery lace that I tied the bows with, and I'm going to wrap this whole wood round. I'm going to leave it open on the top to create a hanger. Once I was done with that, I went ahead and cut a small piece of jute twine and tied another shoestring bow at the top where that lace meets my round. I'm going to now tie another shoestring bow at the top of that ribbon, and that will create my hanger. I do love the way it was coming together, but it was still bare at that bottom. And so I just grabbed a couple pieces of some greenery and my hot glue gun. I always have my hot glue gun going. Well, I try to when I am crafting, because you never know when you're going to need it. So I went ahead and just glued 2 pieces of some greenery down to the bottom of my board center. And I went ahead and added some hot glue to the back of a little snowman and laid him right on down there. Once they were all done, I'm going to add a little bit of snow. I first grabbed some pine cones. I think I'd remember this. But some more pine cones from my yard, those little tiny ones, and I'm just going to add those to the bottom of our little snowman here. And then I'm going to use some Waverly Snow White chalk paint, and we are going to just dust a little bit of snow across the top of our greenery and our pine cones. Nothing big, but just enough to add a little white down towards that bottom. Don't forget to wait to the final reveal to see how this turned out. And this is my favorite of today, project number 2. Let's jump right on in. And I have a bunch of chenille stems. I also have some twist tie stuff. I have some burlap 2-inch ribbon. No. This is my Martha Stewart ribbon. And it's 9 feet of 2-inch ribbon that's gold. And then I have some burlap. And then I have this Dollar Tree wreath form. So I am going to first of all go through my 5.5-inch wide burlap roll, and every 6.5 inches, I'm going to pull up a string and pull that out. And as you see here, it will give me a nice area to come right on down and cut straight through to give me the 6.5-inch piece that I want. Once you have that pulled out, it will give you a nice area just to cut right up on that line. And I'm cutting 30 pieces of burlap this way. And now I have that Martha Stewart ribbon, and I'm cutting 30 pieces at 6 inches long, and then I'm going to dovetail each piece. And there I have all 30 of my pieces done up. I went and found my husband's lighter. He told me where it was at, his barbecue one, and I am just going to go through there and just melt the edges of that ribbon, and now I can start putting these together. I did want to show you, there is a top and a bottom to the colors, and so you want to go through and make sure you have all your top sides showing. And I have 10 of these tan colored chenille stems, and I'm bending it right at 4 inches and then bending it at 4 inches. And this is now going to give me 3 pieces per chenille stem to wrap around my ribbons. And I'm going to come in and cut them all off right at 4 inches each. So just coming in with my little wire cutters and just trim that right on off to give me 30 pieces to wrap my ribbon. Once those are all done, I have now my pile of burlap, I have my pile of ribbon, and my pile of chenille stems. And so I'm going to take and I'm going to bend my ribbon. This ribbon is so stiff. Oh my goodness, it was by the time I was done with this, my little arthritic fingers were sore. But I just pinched it in the middle, folded it in half, and then folded each edge up. And now I ruffled the burlap around it and using that chenille stem in the center to twist tie it closed and then bending that ribbon back out. So there I'm going to have 30 of these all done once I get them all finished here. So it was a process because like I said, this ribbon was so stiff. I don't know if it was originally that way or if it's because it's so old. I don't know. Any ideas, guys? Okay, so I have them all done and ready to be attached to my wreath form here. And so I just grabbed 6 because I think I grabbed, I don't know. I grabbed 1 to go in between each of those pieces there, each of those dividers where they all get welded together. I went ahead and just put 1 at each spot, twist tying it to the back to secure it. I wanted you to see that I was sticking it between one side of the wreath and the other side of the wreath and joining so that it's not going to go up, down, or side to side on this wreath form. And now I'm adding a third piece, one piece to the center of each one of those sections on not the outside, but the one frame on the just to the inside of the outer ring. And I'm going to twist tie that. Well, zip tie. No, that's not a zip tie. That is a chenille stem. That, oh my goodness, to that second ring on my wreath form. Now I need to put 3 more per section. And so I'm going to put 2 on the outer ring above and below where I had marked that center one, and twist tie those down. And then on the inner ring, I'm going to place 1 more. So that gives me my final 3 per section on my wreath. Now I will turn that around and fluff them out, and they will be arranged. When it's all put together, I will do it one last time, but I wanted to make sure that was going to be full enough per the section. After having my fingers poked a few times with those chenille wires, I went ahead and stuck some hot glue on the backside and pushed the chenille stems into that hot glue, holding that into place. That not only helped to hold each one of my little bow sections in place, but it also saved me from poking my fingers any. Now, I didn't want this burlap to fray, so I came in with some of my Rave Mega Hold hairspray, and I am spraying this thing all over the place. I'm making sure that it was nice and sprayed down, and now I'll come back in and fluff up each one of those pieces, pulling them out and pulling off any fray burlap that didn't get caught up in the spray to keep it in place. So that, I think we've got it all there as I'm fluffing it around and pulling off any loose strays. Now guys, if I would have known that this bow was going to be so hard to make with this ribbon being so stiff, I wouldn't have done it. But I did, and I created it. It did turn out okay, but it is not an easy one to do. This ribbon was so stiff. Okay, so I had 32 inches, 20 inch, 18 inch, and 16 inch, and I'm going to dovetail my biggest piece. So that is going to give me the starting point for my bow. I went ahead and burned the little pieces on the inside there to help it from fraying, and because it's a polyester, it just melts that ribbon together and it won't fray. Guys, I had to speed this up a little bit more. I had to open each ribbon, fold it in half, and snip from the outside edge to the center to give me an area I could actually wrap the wire around for this ribbon. I went ahead and bent that and twisted it and pulled it in as best I could, and it just was not going to budge. This ribbon was so stiff. Um, like I said, I would not have used it if I knew it was going to struggle. It was going to give me such a hard time, but it does turn out okay in the end. But I didn't want you to have to spend time watching me just, man, be frustrated over a bow. But there you have it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and continue to maneuver this around, twisting that down and then wrapping that wire around my tails, and then I will flip it over and start to fluff. Once that is done, I'm going to take another piece, fold each edge onto the center, and wrap around the center of this bow, hot gluing it nice and tight as I go, pulling it so that it actually looks like a bow. Lots of hot glue and frustration here, but keep going, trust the process, and see your vision in your head. It will come out. Just be patient. It's a good thing I'm not a cussing woman. My goodness. If I were one that needed anger management, this thing would have been thrown across my room a few times. But it's almost done. It's almost complete, and I think it turned out pretty. Except for the little bits of glues that I've had to push in and tuck in and pretend that they were just all one solid piece. Yeah. Well, hey, it is the life in a DIY world. So I'm just using the end of my paintbrush here and just to curve out the edge of that bow just a little bit better. Um, Now I'm just going to come in and use those wires, find the center of the bottom of that wreath, flip it over and secure it to the back side so that I know it's not going to go anywhere. And I do add some more hot glue to the back of this as well, just so I know it's not going to get loose or unravel. All right, so fluff, fluff, fluff. Here we go again, straightening it out. I think it did turn out really pretty on the bottom of that, but I wanted some color. So I have this um, vine of holly berries that I have no idea what happened to my footage. I know my camera gave me an error, and I bet that's what happened. It just stopped recording. I am so sorry. But here you have it. I just cut up some berries off of that vine and hot glued it into that wreath. Guys, what do you think about this one? Like I said, this one was my favorite out of what I created. I think it's absolutely beautiful. It was a pain in the tail, but I love it. It is hanging on my front door. And the first project we have wood round and our ornaments. Guys, which one was your favorite? I think they both turned out lovely, and I'm excited to share them with you today. Guys, thank you so much for spending time with me today. Your time is precious, and I know it. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you've not subscribed, I hope you'll consider doing so now by hitting that subscribe button. Don't forget the links to the hosts are in my description box below, along with the playlist of all the other talented creators joining this collaboration. As always, stay safe, God bless, bye for now.